will be available soon on the eCitizen portal as institutions rush to beat the deadline to the government online gateway. Now, vice chancellors and other senior administrators from 47 public universities are meeting in Athi River to finalize the onboarding of admissions, procedures and other essential services in line with the presidential directive. Immigration and Citizens Services Professor Professor Julius Bitok, who officially opened the onboarding retreat, urged the administrators to comply with the directive. This is meant to boost convenient access of government services and raise a collection of relevant revenue.
We want to eliminate corruption. We realize that there are so many leakages, and the government, His Excellency, is very clear in his mind. By leveraging on technology, is able to reduce corruption and leakages in resources. We're also going to create quite a number of job opportunities, because this Gavam Kononi, this is what we are calling Gavam Kononi, is going to be rolled to every village, and we are using M-Pesa model. We believe that when we have all the services of the universities on the phone, a student who wants maybe to borrow a book, assume you are paying for a book, for example, or a student who wants to go to the mess and wants a certain service, they can be able to go to their phone, click the service, pay on the phone, and the university can be able to get money real time. You will not necessarily be relying on your accountants, your ICT, to be able to reconcile. You can be able to see how money is coming into the university real time. And we're saying, we are very clear in our mind, the money that the university has been enjoying as A&A, or the money that is generated from different strategic business units, will be able to be channeled accordingly to those accounts. But what is due to the government, that is supposed to go to Central Bank, that's supposed to go to National Treasury, will be directed to National Treasury.
Now, the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms presented their report to President William Ruto last week. Now, this will mark the beginning of the implementation of a new university funding model that will see the government establish the eligibility of students for funding by clustering them into 3 financial categories: vulnerable, less vulnerable, and able. So, how will this impact the tertiary level of education? Well, that's the conversation we want to have in studio. And like I said earlier,
receiving was based on the capitation, and that was based on the number of students that the university has admitted through COOPs, and also the course that the student is taking. Now, even then, the capitation itself was not 100%. And actually, because of everybody who has got a C+ and you've gotten yourself an admission to the university, you would be eligible. And so you find that the amount of money the government allocated now would be like if you have got a large number of students who have qualified, then, and you've got, like, let's say, just for an example, that 10 billion shillings, you have to divide that one with the 10 billion among the students. And so you find that the capitation now will be declining. Actually, from the time that was implemented, the capitation has been going down. For public universities, it's been around 50% capitation, and for private universities, around 25 to 30% capitation. So the new model is trying to correct that, and also because there is take into account that there are some people who actually are getting admitted to the university and they can afford to pay without getting government support. So that support can be directed to people who are more needy and who might deserve the support better. So that is the major difference that is coming in with the new model.
What do you think are the key goals or objective, that the new funding model aims to achieve in the new Kenya, or in the Kenya education system?
Well, okay, the first one is what we said, that to make the university education and tertiary education accessible also to the people who are vulnerable, the poor students, and also to improve the quality of education in the universities. In terms of that, if you read the report, right now we are concentrating more on the financial matters, what will be paid. But there are other things that are tied to that model, like quality assurance, that when you receive this funding, the government will be getting involved. especially for the scholarships. The government is going to get involved in terms of issues of quality assurance, the quality of education. There is also the support that the government, especially for public universities, that the government will be providing to support research and innovation and capital development within the universities. Yeah, that is the main thing. And also that I think it will be a little bit more predictable for the universities. You see, what used to happen and what has been happening with the previous model is we have to wait for the results for the KCSEs to be released, and how many students get C+. And from that is like, so how many, because we have got, like last year, I think we had around over 170,000 students who qualified. So it's like, okay, the government has an allocation of 54 billion shillings. So you try to divide that one among the students. Right. And then, of course, you take into account the courses that the students are going to take. So the universities could not be very sure whether they are getting 80% capitation, 50% capitation until very late, and so planning becomes an issue. And also how adequate that amount of that money is for to support university education is also a problem.
Talking about adequacy, I want us to look at now in terms of equity and accessibility among the universities. How do you think the new fund model will address accessibility and equity issues?
Yeah, I think it will. Theoretically, I would say that, because when it comes to practice, first of all, there are other things that come into play. But on paper, it looks very good. It looks like we are, of course, trying to reach out to those people who are unable to get quality university education because of their financial status. So we want to get them into the system so that they're able to learn and even to do these courses. Now, and then those who are able to pay, of course they will pay because they can seek admissions and they will be able, if they can take loans and be able to pay the loans, or their parents and their guardians can help. So when you talk, but then there is another bit that comes in, is when you look at this model, it looks like the scholarships are restricted to public universities. So the students, you have to be admitted to a public university to get a scholarship. Right. So if you go to a private university, it means that you are able to pay, so you don't need a scholarship, so you can, of course, apply for the loans, and possibly, if you're able to convince your local MP, get some bursary.
Is that a good way to go?
I don't think it is the right way to go. I think the government of Kenya borrowed quite a bit from the model in South Africa. And for South Africa, they actually exclude private universities for good reasons. That private universities are actually not part of the quality assurance system that the government's sponsored universities, public universities are. And also, they are more expensive. But when you come to Kenya, public and private universities, all of them, in terms of quality assurance, is regulated by the Commission for University Education. And so, even they are participating even in COOPs. So the reason why you would not allow a student who has been admitted or who has chosen to take a course at a private university to get a scholarship is not understandable. The other thing is that when you think about equity and access and quality of education, some of the private universities in this republic offer very good education. And for some programs, they're actually better than most of the public universities. So when a student decides that I want to go, for example, to KCA University to take a course in Bachelor of Commerce in Finance and Accounting, and that KCA University, for example, is known to be a leading university in that area, how then, and why would you deny this student a scholarship for that? And the fee that is charged to the university by the university is not higher than what is being charged by other universities. So I think there's that looks to me a little bit discriminatory.
Right. Right. I mean, that's interesting, but I want us to look at some of the potential challenges that parents and students are likely to face with regard to the new funding model? Of course, you've talked about the scholarship issue already. Is there another potential challenge that you see for both the parents and students?
Yes, one of the major problems that we're having right now is information. We don't have a lot of information. Everybody's grappling to find what is all this about this new model. I know the various agencies are trying their best to provide information out there. But now, I've seen that there are 45,000 students who are targeted to benefit from the scholarships for university funding, and 42,000 for TVET institutions. Now, one of them is, what is the criteria the government is going to use to be able to identify this? They're saying they're going to use the means testing instrument. Now, this means testing instrument still remains a mystery.
Right.
So we don't. Of course, we know that they're saying family income. They're talking of regional cost of living index. They're talking about cost of the course. But we don't know how they are going to weight those things. So it's not there out there in the open. So I don't know a priori as a parent whether my child will qualify for this scholarship to prepare myself. And even to get a loan is not to walk in and walk out. You got to apply, you got to wait for a process. And if the university calendar has started, then your student will miss classes.
Is there a way that then universities can be able to help address these concerns?
Yes, and the way is, one is engage them. The government should also engage. I know the presidential task force consulted with the vice chancellors and the universities, but I think in the implementation they need to work around with them. I think also like now, if I may ask a question. If I want to apply for scholarship, am I applying through HELB, or where do I apply for the scholarship? Okay, that needs to be very clear. And when I want to apply for loan, I know it is HELB. But then what does it take for me to get that loan? What is the cost of the loan? Now, when it comes to universities itself, and that's why I like this model for me also, the bit I like about it is that it's challenging universities and disrupting them from their comfort zones. Because universities have also got to think how they will be able to support students to take courses, to go to their courses, to take courses in their institutions. And the other thing is, how can universities also complement what the government is giving? Because the government is giving only 45,000.
Right.
And I'm sure there will be an A student or a B student or a student who wants to take a certain course at a university, and they have not benefited from that scholarship. And maybe even the MTI instrument has ruled them out, but they can approach the university. So universities should have their own in-house financial support programs, which they can use to help students.
Right. You've talked about, of course, lack of information being one of the main challenges when it comes to this new model.
Yes.
But how do you foresee the new funding model, of course, now affecting the quality of education, especially higher education in the country?
There has to be caution in the way it is implemented. There's need for the government to be quite transparent with the information, number one. Number two, even in the disbursements. How will the government be doing the disbursements to the universities? Of course, they need to explain that one. Maybe they have shared that one with the vice chancellors and the other senior university administrators. But also, is the scholarship going to be the only thing you are giving to the universities to be able to provide education? Because when you think about university education, it's not just a lecturer studying there in front of you. And we are moving away from that thing of a lecturer.
Yeah.
We want to move to competency-based education, right? Where we are imparting skills. So if we are to do that, we've got to invest in resources. How adequate is this financing for universities to be able to acquire the necessary resources to be able to, for example, implement competency-based education within their institutions of higher learning? So that is a challenge that needs to be taken into account. Yeah.
You've talked about how this model has sort of been borrowed from, you've talked about South Africa.
Yeah.
So what lessons do you think then the Kenyan education, can learn from that country? What can they draw from South Africa?
Well, South Africa, I don't want to say much about South Africa.
Yeah.
Let me talk about Brazil, because
Right.
Brazil is a little bit better. And with Brazil, they've rolled a similar needs-based funding. And for them, you have got the FIRES, which the students apply for loans, and they charge 6% per annum. And you got the Brownie, which is where they apply for scholarships. Now, so if you don't get sufficient scholarship, you will get funding. You can apply for loans to top up. And those loans, you are given some grace period, okay? And from the data that I've gathered is that the program, and it's been there for quite some time, it has been doing well. It has increased access to university education and the quality of education in the university. Yeah, so I think if well implemented, it has potential.
Yeah.
But there is a but that needs to be taken care of.
Right. As we wrap up now, finally, the last question. What advice would you give to parents and students who are concerned about this new funding model, of course, in terms of their university experiences and the level of costs?
I would advise parents to visit the universities themselves. And first of all, not just wait until they get communication. Let's say, if you have the letter from CUPS, just visit the university and also find out if the university has got alternative support. I can give you, for example, where I work at KCA University.
Yeah.
Students who come, and we also have government-sponsored students in the previous model. And in those previous models, you realize students were paying 16,000 to top up per year.
Yeah.
But still, these students from needy families could not raise. I've seen cases where students come and they're applying to drop out because they cannot find 16,000 for a year to pay for that education. But what the university did when they observed that is when we started taking up the government-sponsored students, is come up with a scholarship, with some ways to help them. There is a student engagement program where the student can work as they study and they are given some work, gives them some work experience. And one of the things I found with that student engagement program is that most students who go through it, when they complete, they usually also get jobs quickly. And then we have got also other support like work study scholarships, where we set aside some money and help the most needy ones, like those that are in third, fourth year that are unable to complete the education. They can be supported just to clear that fee. Yeah, and also soliciting help from donors who can chip in. So, like we have set up a foundation, which is now has reached out and is raising funds to support these families. I encourage every university in Kenya to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that conversation. Of course, that is Professor Ranson Mushiri. He's the Associate Professor, KCA University. We were discussing funding higher education in the country. Well, that's where we wrap up in News Center. Thank you for watching. My name is Fatia Mohammed Noor.